Hi, everybody. So, absolutely delighted to be joined by Neil Taylor of Schwa today. How are you, Neil?
I'm really well, thank you.
Good stuff. Thanks for joining me. So, first of all, would you mind just telling the audience a little bit about what you do at the moment, who Schwa are?
Yeah. So we're a business made up of writers and behavioral scientists, and we help organizations, usually quite big organizations, communicate better, either with their customers or with their colleagues, or try and get those audiences to do stuff, basically, to nudge them into doing the things that we want them to do using a bit of psychology.
Okay, brilliant. And can you tell us a little bit about the journey you've had in your career to starting Schwa, please?
Yeah, so well, I guess the important starting point is I'm a language geek. So I've always really been interested in language stuff. That's what I did at university. Weird little subject called linguistics, which most people don't even know what it is. Then my first job was in a brand consultancy, thinking of names for things, which is an amazing first job that someone just pays you money to sit there and write down words. And then gradually they let me write sentences, occasionally whole paragraphs. And actually, also there, I started running workshops on the language of business. And I sussed out that that was the bit that I was particularly interested in. So I joined another business to do that. And we started very small. And I left that business when it was about 40 people and on two continents. Sounds very grand, in two cities. And then me and my business partner, Jim, decided to set up Schwa after that because we wanted to do the language stuff, but also bring in that behavioral science bit.
Right, interesting. And having named a few companies myself, I know that's not very easy, is it, for picking names for business? How did you find that start to your career?
Oh, it's a nightmare. I mean, it's really good fun on one level, but of anything that you could ever do in marketing, naming is probably the most subjective thing.
Yeah.
So about 20% of that job is the creative bit of it, and 80% of it is trying to manage people's crazy reactions to things through the process.
Interesting. So you mentioned there you've started your current business with a business partner. So it's interesting on these interviews. I've spoken to a few people about how they find working with like a co-founder or just being the sole owner of the business. Was that something you specifically looked to do? It was a good blend between the two of you. How do you find sort of business partnerships?
Yeah, so I guess it's an interesting question because I had always said that I wasn't particularly interested in starting a business, mainly because I didn't really feel like I wanted the responsibility, actually, of, well, paying other people and watching sales go up and down and all that kind of stuff. That felt quite stressful. Um, but Jim actually has very complementary skills to me. Our strengths and weaknesses, I don't know what the right way round this is. Either are very compatible or you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And actually, so it became a bit of a no-brainer to do it with him because from my point of view, I sort of outsourced the worrying of all the stuff that would stress me out to him and vice versa. Although Jim has run several businesses before, run several agencies, and until now he'd always said, don't run it with someone else. He's always said, you want one person who's clearly in charge. Touch wood, so far, we are managing despite breaking his rule.
Very good. It's fascinating, really. There's so many different views on that about the benefits of a co-founder and then having that single decision maker. But sounds like you've got a good setup there, which is great. Something you touched on earlier about you liked the workshops, kind of sound like the training part of language. So something we talk about is sort of finding your fit in your career. I know it's a journey we've all been on, but something I think about quite a lot. Is that something? Do you now feel that you're in sort of your ideal role, if you like, that suits your skills and your interests? And also, is that something that's always changing, or how do you get to that point in your view?
So I think largely, I think I am in the lucky position where I'm doing the stuff I want to do. And clearly that is the benefit of either starting somewhere when it's very small or starting up your own thing, is if it's successful, you can employ the people either to do the bits that you don't like doing as much, frankly, or the bits that you're just not as good at and that other people are better at than you. And obviously the result of that is you get left with the stuff that either you like or find easy or doesn't stress you out. Having said that, clearly every week there's going to be a few of the things that I do that I think, oh, blimey, I wish I wasn't doing this bit. But, you've got to have those bits to appreciate the good stuff, don't you?
Right, exactly. And I suppose if you can keep those down to not too much of your time, at least it's manageable. And then moving on to the management side of things then, so you have employees, as you say, at Schwa. How do you find that part of the role, the management and recruiting the team, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so it's an interesting one. So I love being part of a team, actually. I freelanced for about 3 months and I didn't like it. I like being part of something bigger. But clearly, that is only fun if the people you're with are the right people. And luckily, we had the opportunity when we started Schwa to handpick a few people, frankly, that we had worked with before, who we just knew were both really good at what they did, really clever, but also just nice, just easy to work with. And I guess in my experience, working with the wrong people can be incredibly stressful and draining. And that is the bit actually that I lie awake at night worrying about when that stuff is going on. And it's been a joy to do that, exclusively with the right people, if you like. But some of that, as we've grown, I'd like to claim is excellent skill at recruiting. But recruiting is probably the hardest bit of running a business, I think. Mm. It still seems to just be 50-50 as to whether you get it right. So, I touch wood and thank my lucky stars and all of that stuff that right now we have a brilliant team.
So is there anything that you found, I know this is a really difficult question, around the recruitment in terms of the team collaboration, the personality fits, that sort of thing? Is there anything you've used, tactics there that have maybe helped with that, do you think? Or
tactics would be a strong word for it, John. I don't know if I've got any tactics. I think I've learned to trust my instincts. I think every now and again, maybe we've hired someone who I've said on paper, this person ticks a lot of boxes. And even though I wasn't quite convinced, I went with it and then kicked myself afterwards. Having said that, the opposite has also happened, where I've looked back and gone, why was I not sure about that person in the interview? They're great. This is just proving my point that I find this bit really tricky.
Yeah.
And the other bit that's tricky about it, actually, is the tension between getting the culture that you want and having a spirit that you can identify and feel part of versus recruiting different types of people. And obviously there's always loads of stuff going on around diversity telling you to not just hire in your own image and not just hire people you get on with at interview. And of course I can see the value in all of that. But there is also a strength of knowing that you want to, hang out in a room. Well, it used to be in a room. Maybe it'll never be in a room again. But even hang out over a Zoom call with a group of people who you enjoy spending time with.
Yeah.
Have the right answer. It's tricky.
No, it's interesting. And on your point there, actually, about obviously this shift to remote working forcibly at the moment, but potentially for a lot of businesses becoming the norm. How are you finding that as a business owner, and those, like you said, those team meetings you would normally have in a room? Do you finding the ability to be able to set those up still? Or?
Yeah, it's been surprisingly good. So we have been checking in with each other just for a little bit every day, and I think it's been good to have that pretty regular contact, the equivalent of the chat that you might have had in the office. It's really interesting. Some people in the team are absolutely loving it and saying, why would I ever go into an office ever again? I get bored at home. I don't really want to be in the same place all day, so I'm missing going into somewhere and seeing other people. So it would be interesting to see how all of that shakes out. Because especially in our office, frankly, we won't be able to socially distance in there. So yeah, the jury is still out as to how all of that is going to work.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag, isn't it? Some people, like you say, absolutely love it, and others are quite keen to get back. But so, owner of a service business, we've just touched on kind of the team and the management part, and then also you'll have obviously the clients who may be calling you and have inquiries. How do you manage to maintain some form of focus so you can deliver sort of productive work? Do you schedule time in a day where you sort of silence everything else? How do you manage your focus time?
So other people in the team do all the things that you are talking about there, blocking out time, devoting things to specific tasks. I don't do any of that. And partly because I know that I get bored easily. My attention span is about 90 minutes. So actually, I quite like having, oh, this client has just popped up and needs some urgent help. That is actually a nice distraction for me. So I think I've learned to work sort of around that stuff, and partly because of my attention span. I also work pretty quickly. So I think I'm just lucky that stuff doesn't stress me out. But again, part of being in a team is that we all have to suss out, that I'm at that end of the spectrum, but other people might be at the other end. And I know they're the people not to contact with a random question in the middle of them doing something really important.
Yeah, it's an interesting view on it, really, I suppose. And I guess quite a good fit for running a service business, because you are always going to get those interruptions, aren't you, for clients and things. So, and the next area I wanted to touch on a little bit was around goal setting. So are you the type of business owners that sets big macro goals, or do you break it down into each day and week what you want to achieve, or not something you think about that much at all?
So this is probably where the combo of me and Jim kicks in, because I'm quite bad at the goal setting bit. And I think that's partly because my focus is a bit more short term, or maybe medium term. And again, that works if you're the kind of person who likes working with clients, right? Because clients come along and go, here's a brief, and we want you to deliver it in 3 months' time. And I'm really good at that bit of focus. Jim is doing less of the stuff related to the clients, and he just thinks a bit more long-term and a bit more strategically. So while the rest of us are beavering away doing that stuff, he is sitting there going, well, where is the business going to come from in 6 months' time? And actually, what shape will the business need to be in a year's time if stuff keeps going in the way that it's going? But I think if you just did either of those exclusively, it's a problem. And people always talk about the problem of focusing too short term, but equally that will keep your clients happy. But I sometimes think there's a problem of focusing too long term as well, because it just can make you a bit fixed about what you're trying to do and not quite so good at reacting to what's happening and improvising and being a bit opportunistic. And I quite like that bit. So actually, as coronavirus hit, I quite enjoyed the challenge of going, right, some of the stuff that we do for clients, we're not going to be able to do in the same way. So how quickly do we adapt to something else and get the message out to clients that we can do that? And obviously that wasn't in anyone's business plan.
Yeah. I think I heard someone describe this as sort of entrepreneurs see an opportunity where the box has kind of been shaken a lot and all this stuff's been thrown up, and it's like, well, what opportunities are out there? And it's really interesting that time and again, and it certainly is no coincidence, I would imagine, when we're speaking to small business owners, that they're saying the same thing, the ability to have new ideas, to pivot. So could you just touch on that a little bit? What have you done to shift your business to adapt to the kind of current situation?
Well, first of all, there's just something I want to pick up on in what you just said. It's really interesting you calling me an entrepreneur. It's never really dawned on me till now that I didn't really think of myself as an entrepreneur, and don't really. And I think it might be because that bit that you're talking about there, that kind of there's the opportunity and react to it, is also what lots of people who have a creative job do, right? You know, it's kind of, that is a brief from a client. Here are some constraints, now have a play in it, and now see what you can come up with in the next week. So on the one hand, you know, lots of creative people might not be good at the numbers and all of that kind of bit of it, but that entrepreneurial bit they probably will have in them somewhere. And yeah, I guess the big thing we've done just in terms of adapting, which was, to be honest, a relatively easy switch for us. A big part of our business is training people or running kind of workshops or different kinds of workshops where obviously we're used to being in a room with people, and we can't do that right now. Luckily, we've always had clients around the world. We've also had tech clients who've always insisted that we do stuff virtually to prove that their tech works. So yeah, we had enough experience of that kind of stuff to broaden it out to everything we do.
Brilliant. And I can't have you on here without touching a little bit on language and communication. So we've lots of small business owners watching this. What are some of the common pitfalls and mistakes you see small businesses making in their comms? And is there a couple of little tips you could maybe give them to improve their language and communication?
Yeah, I don't know if it's small businesses particularly. I sort of see the same things everywhere.
Okay.
So I guess the big thing, right, that we talk about a lot in different ways is we all know what good communication is, right? Because we all get however many emails we get a day, and we know which ones we read and which ones we don't. And we've all sat through hundreds of presentations in conferences, and we know which ones we started looking at our phone in and which ones where we were gripped. And usually those communicators are doing similar things. They're getting to the point, they're doing it really naturally, they're bringing it to life in various ways. And we all know that. We all know that when we're sat in the seat as the audience. And then something weird happens when people are told to write something or to deliver a deck. And they start doing what they think they should do, or what is professional, or what is expected. I hate the word expected, rather than what they know works, rather than what they would want to see. So again, it's another kind of trust your instinct thing. If you write or deliver the version that just sounds natural, sounds real, sounds like you nearly always get it right.
Absolutely, yeah, I can certainly resonate with that. Well, Neil, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much. Some really good stuff on kind of the business journey, but also a few little tips there on the comm side of things. So thanks for joining us, and I hope everybody enjoyed that.